What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're talking about what is next for the Mets in the managerial position now that Luis Rojas' days in Queens are done. If you guys did not see the live stream yesterday, breaking news on Luis Rojas' departure with the Mets, please make sure you do, guys. I will have it in the description down below so you find out all the details, my immediate reaction to Rojas being done as manager, what is next for them. But here we have now a new manager that needs to be in place, right? And before you even do that, you still need to hire a president of baseball operations and assumably a GM, because those are the guys you want to be making that decision. But even with that being said, there's a lot of rumors and speculation going around on potential fits for the Mets for the managerial position, depending on if they say want to go for an old school mentality type hire, a new school in between. But no less, I broke it down to 5 in particular that stand out to me that very well could find themselves landing in Queens as the next manager for the Mets. So as always, guys, make sure you stay all the way till the end of the video for all the details and all my thoughts on these 5 potential picks, if they make sense, if they don't, how realistic it is, and so much more. And again, guys, if you ended up enjoying this kind of Mets content and you want to see more great Mets content like this, please do not hesitate from smashing that like and subscribe button, sharing this video with your friends, on the notification bell, all those great things. Thank you so much for the continued support, folks. But enough of me talking, let's jump right into today's video. Starting off at number 5, we have someone that is bound to be a manager in the league sooner than later, regardless on if it's with the Mets or not, and that is bench coach for the Houston Astros and Joe Espada. The 46-year-old, prior to being a bench coach with the Astros since that started in 2018 to now present, was with the Miami Marlins and the New York Yankees as their third base coach. Espada has experience in the Yankees organization, knows how to handle the market as well in the media, and when you look at his connection with the Yankees also, he was even a special assistant to, yes, Brian Cashman, the GM for the Yanks, before them becoming third base coach for them for a bit in the mid-2010s. So Espada is someone that a lot of teams have shown interest in recent years. Had multiple interviews in 2019 with the Chicago Cubs for their managerial position. Similar situation also with the San Francisco Giants during that time. And no less, regardless on if he goes to the Mets or not, it feels like it's a ticking time bomb for Espada to be done as a bench coach and to take that next step as an everyday manager. And while, yes, he doesn't have the experience, which might not make it appealing for some of you guys watching this in the managerial spot, he is one of those guys that has endless experience with just being in the MLB as a whole, has been beyond reputable. I've seen nothing but great things about him. He's been floated out there for a little bit now as a potential fit for not just the Mets, but a lot of teams now. And given the experience he's had, not just with the Yankees, but also the Astros, even post-Cheen scandal, it goes to show that this is going to be a hot commodity for sure. So keep an eye on Joe Espada. He's definitely someone that I do not expect to be on the market as a manager for very long. Here at number 4, we have a very interesting pick that I'm awfully curious what his future is going to hold, and that is Melvin. At only 38 years of age, the Boston Red Sox bench coach, he was originally hired back in 2020, so he hasn't been there long. Prior to that, however, he was in the same situation that Espada was with the Yankees and Cashman, this time with the Chicago Cubs and being the special assistant to, yes, Theo Epstein. So Theo Epstein, a hot commodity, someone that is on the short list of a president of baseball operations that the Mets will be interviewing. That's official, that we broken down in our last live stream on what's next for the Mets heading into the offseason. So check that out if you haven't already, guys, along with my video on Theo Epstein, breaking all there is to know about him, what he potentially bring the Mets from a month ago. So check that out as well. But this is a huge tie with Theo, because if the Mets do in fact hire Theo Epstein, for instance, this is where you have the ties. Reportedly, there's a great connection between the two as it is. And while, yes, he doesn't have managerial experience other than managing one game for the Red Sox this past season, because Cora was gone and they had a 3-1 victory, he still was a first and third base coach during his time with the Chicago Cubs prior, and he's a great young fresh mind that really, yes, I know that we had Luis Rojas as it was, but this is a guy that wasn't just working under Theo Epstein, which is as impressive as it is enough, having that connection, but also working under Alex Cora, who's easily one of the best managers in the league. All Astros Sheen scandal aside, all that stuff, there's no denying how good of a manager Alex Cora is. The Mets would love to have that kind of manager, someone they can really have going forward, not necessarily short term, but potentially long term, as a guy that can give them continued success. So again, a little bit of a wild card pick here because he doesn't have managerial experience, but a fantastic resume for the 9-year MLB veteran as a player. And yeah, Theo Epstein, that very well could be the driving force here in this scenario where the Mets hire him as the next president of baseball operations. Now getting on to number 3, a name that a lot of you guys are either in favor of and love or completely against, as this is a complete 180 from what the Mets would be doing with the first 2 picks we had, going for a veteran president, a guy who has a lot of experience in the league. And that, of course, is the tippity top of the list in Buck Showalter, the 65-year-old, 20-year vet in the league when it comes to actually being an MLB manager. Was most recently manager with the Baltimore Orioles from the span of 2010 to 2018, in which he had a career win-loss record overall, though, as a manager 1,551 wins to 1,517 losses. Hasn't managed in a couple years now, but still has that willingness. He's been connected to the Mets for a while, so the Mets do in fact want to go more so on that veteran route, someone who has proven himself in the league for quite some time now, knows what it takes to win, and while he may be more old school, could potentially be willing and needs to be willing to be adaptive when it comes to analytics and modern day baseball. If Buck is willing to do that, it wouldn't be surprising if the Mets give him a consideration here. So if that's a route they want to go down and don't want to go down the routes of what they've done recently with a Luis Rojas, with a guy who doesn't have experience, then Buck Showalter should surely be near the top of their list as a guy to put into consideration. Here at number 2, someone who's been connected to the Mets, according to Ken Rosenthal over the past month, that we did a video on, including Billy Beane and Bob Melvin potentially coming to the Mets. Make sure to check that out, guys, in the description down below if you haven't already. All the details on that regarding not just who Billy Beane is, Bob Melvin, his complete background in detail on what it would take to get him, because you have to trade for him. No less, Bob Melvin would be nothing short of a perfect pick in my mind for the Mets. And if the Mets do, in fact, have present baseball operations being Billy Beane, in which that very well could be likely if they get the clearance to interview him through ownership of the A's, then yeah, Bob Melvin very well can be a possibility here. This is a guy that has been a manager in the league for 18 years now. 2011 to present is what his time frame has been with the A's. Has led them to plenty postseason berths. While they haven't had deep runs, that really isn't nearly as much on him as it is the organization as a whole, not being able to afford the proper players with dealing with such a cheap payroll. Bob Melvin, though, makes the most of what is given to him. I've seen nothing but great comments about Melvin throughout his career as a manager, and he really has that balance as only 59 years of age that could help now when it comes to old school mentality and new school, balancing the analytics with the gut feeling of in-game decisions. He truly has it all, and again, this is something that becomes far more likely than not in a scenario the Mets do in fact hire Billy Beane as president of baseball operations. So keep an eye on Bob. Check out my video really breaking down the details on that situation. But yes, Bob Melvin, definitely an ideal pick, someone I'm very much in favor of. And last but certainly not least, the man who was supposed to be the manager from the beginning, not even Luis Rojas. Yes, former New York Met, 20-year vet in the league, and Carlos Beltron. Beltron, who was hired as the Mets manager back in 2020, only spent a cup of coffee, literally a couple hours as manager under Bernie Van Wagen as GM and the Wilpons ownership until he mutually agreed with the Mets to part ways because the Astros Sheen scandal came out, and it showed that Beltron was basically the driving force for the players on the Astros to have the Sheen scandal happen. I've seen reports of his connection waves with the Yankees as well, of some, kind of iffy stuff going on, and that's not a good look. I don't respect that at all. But Carlos Beltron is a guy that has an absolutely fantastic baseball mind, no less. There's a reason why the Mets viewed him so covetedly, and while I have my natural concerns of him being a Wilpons and a Brody hire, that's a huge red flag to me, one, but also him not having any managerial experience, that could very well be the X factor into making this not happen. But you'd have to imagine the Mets will at least consider things, knowing how really renowned he is in the league and the kind of impact he would have on the Mets. For me personally, I think something that would potentially be more ideal is to hire him as, say, a bench or a hitting coach to start out with more of a veteran like a Buck Showalter or someone else, if you want to go down that route for a short-term hire, and knowing that you're going to have a changing of a guard with that guy not having a long shelf life. Then Beltron, after gaining a couple years of experience, just like what Alex Cora did during his time on the bench for the Astros before becoming full manager for the Red Sox, I think that would make a lot of sense to kind of build his reputation in the Mets organization again and build himself up as an actual manager to get to that point, have some experience actually in the bigs, not being a player but as a coach. But again, we'll see what happens. I really don't know if Beltron will be a heavy consideration or not, but you'd have to imagine he will at least have his name thrown in the hat, and they will go from there. And that'll do it for this video, folks. I would like to just give a clarification here. By no means am I saying that any of these guys is for certain a lock to be the Mets' next manager. I'm just simply putting two and two together, just like you're seeing all across in other articles and things, as to why this very well could happen with one of these guys potentially. But there's plenty of other names out there that we haven't even discussed. So if you guys are interested in other names, other potential fits, let me know it all in the comments down below if you agree with my picks, or if you disagree and say that other people should be considered. I think there could very well be a bigger list than these five. These are just five that personally resonate well with me, that makes sense for more reasons than one, and it definitely goes directly in hand with who they hire as president of baseball operations, with some of those picks between Billy Beane or Theo Epstein, someone like that for sure. But again, guys, if you ended up enjoying this kind of Mets content and you want to see more great Mets content like this, so much off-season content is coming, literally more than I can even fathom to think about. Please make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. Again, sharing this video with your friends, on the notification bell, all those great things. Thank you so much for the continued support, guys. So much is coming, I assure you. Endless content, endless live streams, endless individual videos, and anything that happens with the Mets this offseason, rest assured we will be right back here on the channel to talk about it ASAP. Thank you again, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below, and of course, let's go Mets, baby.